Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Spiritually Speaking. I had such a great conversation with my new friend Sam last time on the podcast, so I invited her back again. And today we're going to jump into something that she briefly mentioned in the previous podcast, which is how our emotions are manifested in the different parts of our body. So, Sam, welcome back. Thank you for joining me once again for a more in depth conversation about this really important and powerful topic.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure. I'm grateful that you had me back. I was so thrilled when I saw your message. I was like, yeah, let's do the darn thing. So yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, awesome. I'm super excited about it because I feel like it's something that a lot of people don't realize. They have all of these
Mhm.
aches and pains and tension and stress in certain areas of their body. And, as humans and the way we've been programmed over the years, which I know some people really don't like that word, but it's true nonetheless, to go, oh crap, I've been having headaches every day. I'm going to go to the doctor, and like
Mhm.
you go to the doctor, you know what they do. Here's a pill to help you with
Yeah.
that. And we never really get to the root cause of things. So I'm really excited to jump into this conversation and explore maybe some different options other than a medication for it for people.
Yes, definitely. And it's funny because I feel like Western or not Western, I should say allopathic doctors or, traditional pharmacological medicine, uh, doctors don't really have any like root cause assistance. I mean, I'm not dogging them. They're all doing their best and they know a lot of things. Obviously, they went to school for a long time, but they can't know everything about everything. And I mean, like, even for example, if somebody goes to the doctor and they're like, "Oh, I'm so tired all the time," like eventually it goes to, "Well, you have chronic fatigue syndrome." Well, what does that mean? It means you're tired all the time.
Right.
That's what I just said, like it's one of those things that we have to take the power back into our own hands and stop, relying just on doctors for all of the answers to our life experience, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. And so, since we're talking about this beautiful topic, how can we do that, Sam? That's the big question, right?
I think, the first step is always awareness. Just noticing, how do you feel in your body today? This is something that I think a lot of people don't even think about for a second. We're in such a, busy life, especially in the Western world. Everybody's going all the time. We don't have time. We're going here, going there. There's rarely a time to stop. And then if we are stopped, we are busying our minds with things outside of ourselves. We're watching TV, we're watching a movie, or we're engrossed in eating. We're not mindfully here. So I mean, there's a lot of ways that we can dive deeper, but I would say the first most approachable step is just an awareness, just a daily check-in with ourselves, like sit in silence and just say, hey, like, what's going on here, you know and I mean, all the answers aren't going to come in the first day. I mean, what is that saying? Rome wasn't built in a day, or whatever it is. But just but just coming into our bodies and just seeing what's going on in there.
Yeah, it is such an important thing because we do, as humans, most of us, mindlessly move through the day. We don't even think
Hmm.
about it. And I've seen it so many times when I would have a booth at the flea market, I would just watch people as they would walk by and I'm like, they're literally not seeing anything. Like they're
Hmm.
so in their heads about everything that they're not even seeing anything that's around them. And I see it so much at work too, and how we allow the pent up emotions to spill over. Like one
Hmm.
day, and it was a nonverbal communication, but another lady and I were in an aisle together and we were communicating, and there was a lady between us that was shopping, and she just picked up something and literally threw it into her cart, and it like made this loud noise, and the lady and I looked at her and then looked at each other like, wow, like there's so much pent upness in us humans that we don't, like you said, we're not even aware enough to think about focusing on our bodies in a way that allows us to even notice what we're feeling.
And I mean, I know for us as women, it's a little bit easier in some aspects to get in touch with our emotions, but um, men have a completely different experience with emotions. I mean, I think by now we all kind of know that men are told like you aren't supposed to be expressing your emotions, or that's not allowed, or I'm not a man, so I can't sit here and talk about their experiences in depth because I don't know. It's not my life experience, but just seeing some of the men in my life and how they deal with their emotions is I don't want to say problematic because it's not like, oh, they're a problem, but just the way that I feel that men have been conditioned to deal with their emotions or not deal with their emotions uh really turns up in the body in ways that I can't begin to even imagine for myself.
Yeah, it's very true. And it's really a beautiful thing. And as you were speaking about men, I recalled this the last time I was at the Springs. As I was
Mhm.
leaving, I passed two teenage boys, and I think one of them said he was 14. And there was
Mhm.
one young man telling the other young man that he needed to have a girlfriend. And he said, "Why do I need to have a girlfriend, man? I'm 14. Why do I need a girlfriend?" And the other kid
Mhm.
was saying, "Well, it proves you're a man. It proves you're a man if you have a girlfriend." And the one young man looked at the other one and said, "I don't need to have a girlfriend to be a man." And before I could even think about it, I said, "I 100% agree with you. You do not have to have a girlfriend to be a man." And
Mhm.
that's just one little, and I was so proud of him. Like he wasn't even my child. And I was so proud of him for standing up for himself and going, "No, I don't need to have that to be a man. I'm a man just in and of myself. I am that, you know?" And
Mhm.
I feel like so many men, like you said, it is been over time that you don't, you cowboy up, you man up, big boys don't
Mhm.
cry, and all of that stuff. So they do shelter their emotions a whole lot more than us girls do. Like, because if we cry, it's not considered weakness. We're like a girl, so we're expected to cry in some way,
Mhm.
on some level. We don't always let ourselves do it. I'm more
Mhm.
free about it now than I ever have been because I used to be embarrassed about it, and I
Mhm.
feel like that's kind of we've been taught not to have these uncomfortable emotions in public. I mean, there's even been songs written about it. Hide your crazy, and all of
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. And it's not crazy to have emotions. We all get to have them, whether we're men or women. We get to talk about them and bring them into the light. I mean, that doesn't mean we should get on a video and act hysterical and prove to the world how human we are. That's not what that means. But in our private spaces with our friends and those who support us, we need to be able to do that.
Definitely. And I mean, the right people, having the right people around you, they're not going to care about that kind of stuff because they also should feel welcome to express their emotions. And yeah, I think it's extremely important for people to be able to express their emotions in a healthy way. I think going back to what you said about going online and crying hysterically for, a video or something like that, that's not really a healthy way.
Right.
Obviously, you know that, but a lot of people do not. And I feel like in some cases the pendulum is swung a little bit the other way in that let's let's normalize everything. And it's like, but some things aren't actually normal, guys. Like there's a balance here, It's I actually just to take it slightly off topic for a moment, I actually was I wrote a post about how I've noticed that people in various Facebook groups about borderline personality disorder are well, not constantly, I shouldn't generalize, but they are often complaining about how there are people online that are trying to get views and they're making a big stink about whatever borderline personality disorder, and they're pretending to have it, and they're just trying to get views and all this other stuff. And I mean, first of all, they were complaining about people on TikTok, which I think the average age on TikTok is probably quite young, so I don't think it's someone in our age range here. So first of all, I was like, they're probably children. so that's the first thing. Are we really going to get upset about children trying to get attention online? I don't think that's really constructive. And the second thing is that if somebody's online making a big fuss and doing all this stuff for views, is that not in itself a cry for help?
Yeah.
Like, is that not something that says, you know what? This person I think has some problems. And it's not coming from a judgmental perspective or like, oh, let's they judge them or whatever, but it's just have some compassion because clearly if somebody's online doing all of this stuff, whether it's real or not, it's not right. It's like they're
Yeah.
not well. And just
Yeah.
being
It's
kind about
it's
it.
it's so interesting that you brought this topic up, and I feel like it's clickbait. I really feel like
Mm,
it's clickbait. Like it's designed to have you click on it and watch it to see what the fuss is about, which is what
hmm.
as humans, we love the fucking drama. Like,
Yes.
the stillness is something that we are so uncomfortable with still in
Hmm.
2025, in the middle of 2025. It's still something that we are so uncomfortable with, which is just bizarre to me as a person who loves the stillness so much,
Hmm.
But even I noticed in the last week or so, one of my favorite tarot readers is
Hmm.
starting to do it. Like I've turned
Okay.
one of her videos off the other day because of the language she was using. And then I've noticed in her little captions that she puts on her videos about it's like so much like one was like the test will begin on such and such a date, and then another one was oh, what did it say? Oh, mental warfare is going to happen on this day, and I'm like, I'm not even watching that. What the hell is happening right now? Like, I don't understand it. And why do we have to come out with these, like, just, I don't even know the word to use for it because I
Hmm.
just am like, I'm going to scroll right by it. I'm not going to click on it because I'm not going to play into that mindset. We don't have to
Definitely.
do that. We can embrace every single emotion we have without it being like this big, huge thing that needs a giant headline to grab everybody and suck them in. I just, I don't feel like
Hmm.
that's necessary.
It's not necessary and it's not healthful or helpful. And it's just going to continue on. It's just going to spiral out of control as it always does, right? Like it's, it's just like people can't be satisfied. And I'm not trying to generalize, but it's very hard for people to be satisfied with what they have. So they're always reaching out. That's why consumerism is so rampant in Western culture, is because we've been programmed. I know some people don't like that terms, but facts, people have been programmed to be consumers. They want more. They can't just be okay with like, oh, this tarot video is very interesting, because they're like, oh, whatever, interesting. That's not good enough. I need it to be drama. I need people to be jumping off cliffs and throwing tarot cards. I don't know. Okay, that was a bit
Right.
much. But like it's the same, it's addiction. It's just addiction to the core. And I mean, the same thing happens with even like pornography addiction, for example. Like people start, oh, this is a little bit like hoo-hoo. And then next thing you know, we don't need to go any further in this discussion. I think you know where I'm going with it, but people
Yeah.
are it's they can't just be
Oh,
satisfied with this. They have to find something a little bit more, a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more taboo, and all of a sudden they're doing things that they definitely would have never done prior to getting sucked into this. And I think it's just a complete culture. I don't know what to call it. Like whoop, there goes my leg. Uh, um, hmm, a phenomenon. I'm not exactly sure what the word is exactly, but just something where everybody is just kind of in it, whether they know it or not.
yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. I do agree with you. And at the same time, this beautiful thing is happening where people are becoming more aware and they are realizing that they can step into themselves and have that stillness. And then all of a sudden, an amazing sunset or an amazing sunrise feels like this monumental thing that's so exciting and so impactful and so magnificent that how could you want more than that? you know?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Being here now and being okay with right now because, this is all we have. We have memories of the past and ideas about the future, but none of it's actually real. It's right now that's real. So what are you doing right now to have a good life?
Yeah. And I would like to say one of the things that I have noticed about myself recently, because as you and I were discussing right before we came on, I've had a lot of emotional stuff going on in my personal life recently that's been really, really big. It's really, really big stuff. And I feel sometimes like my chest area, like my heart area is heavy, or like I get these flutters in there sometimes, and I know that it's related to the emotional stuff that I'm going through. So instead of ignoring it or feeling like, oh God, I need to go to the doctor because I'm having a physical issue, because I know what it is. It's that emotion that's coming through and
Mm-hmm.
it's manifesting in that area. And sometimes I'll even put my hand on my chest and remind myself, I'm here in this moment. Everything is fine. I'm safe. I'm well, and do a few deep breaths and re-center myself and ground myself in that moment. And and then all of a sudden I feel better. And
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing. I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't have a counseling session. I just remembered who I am in that moment and allowed myself to realize that the only thing that is happening right now is that my human self has allowed those emotions to take over for a moment.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And it's funny because I've heard emotion referred to as energy in motion. So when you
Yes.
feel that feeling, it's just a bubbling up of energy, and just holding space for that energy to let it dissipate is so important. And so many of us are holding it in, and then that eventually is what can contribute to illness, is just unprocessed and repressed emotion. So yeah, it's super powerful that you're and able to notice that, and also know how to just hold space for yourself, because I think that's something that everybody's capable of doing, but not many people are aware how to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
And
agree
it's
with
not as complicated as it has to be. I mean, you took some time, you put your hand on your heart or wherever you were feeling that emotion, you breathed into it, you allowed the space for it, and it eventually went. But a lot of us don't know how to do that, or like you said, turn to allopathic or pharmacological doctors to see, like, oh, something must be wrong with me. And
yeah.
it's like a lack of trust in ourselves and our abilities to heal ourselves, because really at the end of the day, like, maybe it's a secret or maybe it's not, but we have the ability to heal ourselves if we allow ourselves to.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, it's not really something wrong, and I think that's the big lie is that there's
Mm-hmm.
something wrong, and there's
Mm-hmm.
not. It's just a processing of our emotions, and we get to do that. It's one of the big things that we deal with as human beings. And our soul doesn't have that issue. It's the human side of ourselves that puts the judgment on it, that puts the meaning to it, that says we should be handling it in this way, or we should be reacting that way, or, like we should be further along. Wayne Dyer said we
Mm-hmm.
should all over ourselves all the time, and we do. We get to
Mm-hmm.
have the emotions, we get to process it, and there's nothing wrong there at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfectly natural and beautiful to go, oh, I feel that. And then let me look at that and what that means for me and how I can help myself get through it and look at it in a more positive way.
So true. So true. And yeah, just finding that trust for yourself is so important. And trusting just how you feel and your thoughts. And I going back to just any kind of mental illness, or specifically in my case, BPD, depression, anxiety, etc. um I was taught to not believe my thoughts, not trust myself. I'm untrustworthy. And I
Yeah,
think that that's drilled into so many people's minds, that I can't trust myself. If you can't trust yourself, then who the heck can you trust?
that's a good question. It really is. And we'll put that trust out there for other people before we ever even consider, just like love,
Hmm.
we'll love a dog, we'll love a tree, we'll love another person, but we won't even think about how that relationship of love is with ourselves. And it's hugely important. It's foundational. That's what I feel. It's foundational because if you allow yourself to truly see and love yourself and become comfortable in your own skin with who you are, then you can do and be and accomplish anything because it doesn't seem impossible to you, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. I self-love first over everything because yeah, like you said, it's absolutely foundational. You have to be able to believe in yourself and believe in your capabilities before you can even really believe in other people or really, that cliche saying like how can you love someone else if you don't love yourself? And it's true because um it's not going to be as healthy a love for other people if you don't love yourself first. It might be a little bit too clingy. It might be a little bit too separated in that like you're keeping them at arm's length, or maybe you're the opposite. It's respecting and loving yourself first is the key to living, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. And it's something that I worked hard on. I've been through some, really difficult emotional relationships with people, and not just partner relationships, but family relationships and friendship relationships as well over the years because I didn't truly love myself. So that's something that I've really worked hard on, and that's why I offer a program about self-love because it is so important to me, and I know how it has changed my life. I realize how I'm not a people pleaser anymore, and at the same time, and I tell people this, when you become able to love yourself so completely, you don't have to prove it. You know what I mean? You don't have to. Standing in your power doesn't mean that you're being verbally vicious to other people. That's not what it means at all. And a lot of people are like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I speak my truth now, I love myself, and then they're just dicks to other people because they think it's okay because they're standing in their truth. And that's not what it means. Is, in my opinion and in my experience, there's a temperance that it puts on your mouth when you truly love yourself because you don't feel the need to prove anything. You just
Exactly.
meet people where they are, and you understand that, if someone is rude to you, that doesn't mean it's okay for you to be rude back. That doesn't mean you don't love yourself. It means you understand that they're going through some shit. That doesn't mean it's okay for them to talk to you that way. But I feel like it tempers how you react to things. Do you find that to be true?
Absolutely. Not just in friendships or relationships, but even as a parent as well. Having the love and respect for myself. My daughter is she'll be 4 in 4 months or something like this. And I mean, yeah, she sometimes she hits me and I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Now, obviously I don't hit her back because she's a child, but I also don't allow her to do that to me. And I say that to her. I say, I won't let you hit me. I'm not allowing you to do that. I have to keep myself safe, and now we're gonna have some space between each other or whatever it is. And even with friendships, I love myself enough to realize that either I meet people where they're at, and because, just quick side story for a second, I have a bit of a high standard when it comes to friendships in that like I think I of myself as a very good friend. I'm very loyal. And I know that most people can't be as good a friend as I can. And I'm not saying that because I'm so great and everything like that. It's just that this is something that I hold very like, I value very much. But I've realized over time that most people can't do it. So either I have to decide that where they're at is okay, and I'm just going to have to be okay with the shortcomings they have as a friend, or I have to decide that, you know what, I can't handle these shortcomings and I have to have them out of my life. And that for me is self love because either I meet them where they're at, like I said, or I say, you know what, this isn't working for me. and being okay with that. And not, I don't have to be nasty about it and be like, you're a terrible friend and I don't like you. I mean, like, that's not helpful either. It's
Right.
just being real and having boundaries, which, yeah, I would say the biggest thing is if you love yourself, you put the boundaries up, which as women, most of us don't have the boundaries up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find that to be true with men too, as I've watched
Mhm.
some things happen. I saw a conversation between two young people that were a couple one time at work, and I was like, wow, like, dude, like, I really wanted to just walk up to him and say, like, you should probably just totally like walk away right now, like right now in this
Mm,
moment, because if somebody's going to treat you like that in public, they're going to treat you way worse behind closed doors. And I've been there. I've been in the
mhm,
relationship where I was treated way worse behind closed doors. And so I agree with you. It is self love and having those boundaries. And those boundaries are for you. And that's
mhm,
a lot of people think, well, the boundaries are for the other people. No, they're not. No, they're not. They are for you. That's where you create your safe space. It's like when you have a yard that has a fence to keep out, the wild animals or whatever, so you can keep your animals in, that fence protects your property.
mhm.
It doesn't do a damn thing for anybody else's property. It protects your property. And that's what boundaries do for you and your space to keep you having that beautiful, peaceful place. And let me just tell you what I have learned over the years, and I'm sure you have too, Sam, because I feel this in my soul from you. Peace is not underrated. That's what I have found. Peace is not underrated. It is the best and most beautiful thing you can have in your life. And those boundaries help you create that peace in your life.
100%, because nobody's gonna make the peace but me. It's my life, or in your life, in your case, it's just having the decency for yourself and also honestly for other people as well. I know you said it's not for other people and it's not, but letting people know that it's not acceptable for them to treat you a certain way is also a bit of a gift for them, and that they can potentially have the ability to self-reflect and say, oh wow, like maybe I'm the a-hole, like, or something, or maybe they won't, and cool, bye, it's really not that big a deal, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, it is. It's very true. And, we are planting seeds at the end of the day with everything that we do, every move we make, every little shift that we do. And, I see it often with some people, that I have interactions with, that I just say these things now that I never would have used to have said. They just come out of my mouth because I'm like, it's been so helpful for me, and this is the way I see it. And it's mindset is everything, and it's so beautiful. And even if you never talk to that person again ever, even if it's someone you just talk to very briefly in passing at your job, or when you're standing in line at the grocery store or wherever, they'll take that thought and they'll think about it. At some point it's going to come up and they'll be like, oh, I remember a girl in line at Publix said blah blah blah, and wow, that seems really pivotal in my life right now. It's amazing.
Mhm. I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like mindset is so important. Mindset is everything because it's the lens in which we view life. And some people are quick to say like, oh, like affirmations are just words, or what I'm watching on TV are just words. It's like, but your subconscious doesn't know the difference. And that's what's driving the ship. That's 90% of your reality is your subconscious mind that most people aren't even aware of. Your 90% is driving this ship or whatever, and you're watching all this stuff of violence, or you're listening to this music about things that are not nice, let's say, and it's just taking all of that in and just going for it and just guiding you in ways that you have absolutely no idea, and so that's why I think like affirmations are important, and speaking to yourself in a kind way is important, and just being aware of your intake and what you're saying to yourself as well, going back to loving yourself, because it's literally everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it is, do you shared a story with me about yourself, and how your words got you into a little bit of a situation. Do you want to share that? Because that, I feel like that is very impactful about how our words do impact our physical reality and how what we say does affect our bodies. Do you want to share your story?
I'm curious. I'm like, what story did I tell you? Because I like I'll tell anything. So just remind me. And yeah, tell.
The story about you weren't feeling very well during our last
Oh,
podcast and
of course, yes. Of course, yeah. I'm happy to tell that story because yeah, it'll just display exactly what I'm talking about. So I trained to be a yoga teacher. Not to like, I'm not going to be like back in 2016, but also back in 2016, I trained to be a yoga teacher, and I hadn't taught yoga for years. I think I taught yoga about 5 years ago, anyways. And I manage a yoga studio, and there's not a lot of yoga teachers around here right now because it's low season, it's rainy season, it's raining every day. There's not a lot of tourists around. And anyways, I realized that I'm going to have to start teaching yoga again because there's not a lot of teachers. And I just kept trying to put it off. Like, no, I can't do that. Not because I like thought I couldn't do it. I just honestly did not want to. There was something in my mind that was like, you don't want to do that. It's not for you anymore. Okay, just no. And I limiting beliefs. I'd come up, oh, it's just, I can't remember all the names of the postures anymore. So I can't do it, you know? And anyways, it came down to it where I literally had no one else and put myself up on the schedule. And this was actually the day before we recorded last time. And I don't know if anybody is watching notice, but I was actually quite sick that recording that we had. And the next day, I was like bedridden sick, and I was like, I don't get sick. I'm not some like sickly person. I used to be, but now in my 30s and paying attention to my health and what I eat and stuff, it's very rare for me to get sick. But anyways, I was just in the bed taking a nap in the middle of the day. I had a little bit of a upset with my husband, and I was like, nobody takes care of me when I'm sick, when I and yeah, I realized I actually knew as soon as I woke up, I was like, oh, I see what's going on here. But to clue everyone else in, I basically made myself sick subconsciously so that I didn't have to teach yoga, thinking that I could just get out of it. And I was actually sick, and I mean, I didn't fake that, but I got better on Friday, and it was a Thursday.
that's how powerful our thoughts are and our words when we speak them. So it's I feel like that just kind of underlines and puts an exclamation point on what we're saying about how our thoughts and our minds can affect our physical bodies. And it's not
Definitely.
something that, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't go see a doctor if they feel like they need
No,
to go. That's not what I'm saying
no.
at all, because 100% go see a doctor if you feel like that's what you need to do, just to rule some things out. Uh, and remember to be your own advocate. And please remember that you actually hired them to do the job. They didn't hire you, so they're
Yes.
not your boss. Please stand in your own power when you go to your doctor if you're going to go.
Yes.
So, but
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I feel like it just kind of illustrates in Technicolor what we're talking about and how our thoughts really do affect our bodies. And everything is out in the energetic field before
Mhm.
it finally moves its way in and manifests in our physical body.
Definitely. And the other, the thing is as well is, um, oh my gosh, I totally just lost my train of thought. It was like, goodbye. Um,
Me too.
ah, where was I going with this? Yeah, I think that being aware of it is very important. This wasn't what I was going to say, but being aware of it is very important, and it'll come back if it's important.
It will, definitely. That's what I always say too. It'll come back at some point if it's supposed to. But, you know, and
Yes.
and I would like for you, because we talked about it a little bit last time. So it could you talk a little bit about how the different areas of our bodies are affected by different emotions or thought processes that we have?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, there's a lot of different schools of thought to say where emotions lie where. Some of them would be like traditional Chinese medicine. has some ideas. Also, the emotion code is another, I don't know what to call that, like a text or a way of thinking, a doctrine, if you will, but not like a scary, like, ooh, doctrine. Um, so basically, like if we're gonna talk specifically like about grief, for example, this is something that actually hangs out in the lungs and the chest. So this is according to TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, as well as Louise Hay, if anybody knows who she is. She's an amazing spiritual lady, we'll call her. Well, she's so much more than that, but she founded Hay House, which basically has brought spirituality, I think, to the mainstream, which has been so amazing. So anyways, going back to grief, this can come up like with shallow breathing, with chest tightness, sighing, or even like asthma like symptoms. This can actually just be your body holding on to grief. So, ways that we can work through this would be something like breath work, of course, like, oh, I'm shallow breathing. I'm going to take some deeper breaths and really open and expand and release. Even just crying, it's an emotional release is how we can heal ourselves. um One thing that I noticed, for example, is in the stomach and the gut. This is actually where shame and guilt hides. Now, I struggled with an eating disorder throughout it started when I was 11, and I would say it probably, I mean, it never fully leaves, but I don't ever really like think about it like obsessively like I did back then. And I'm 36 now. So this shame and this guilt around eating can manifest, or just in any facet of our life can manifest in our stomach, in our gut. So just having that like, something doesn't feel right. This can be nausea. This can be as like serious as like ulcers or IBS or bloating or a lack of appetite. This is all connected. So, it's emotions are just in our body. They're just trapped there most of the time. And it's not just like, oh, I don't have any trapped emotions, because I feel like in today's day and age, nobody is completely healed of everything. So there's got to be something. And not to say like, oh, there's got to be something wrong with you. I don't mean it like that. But the chances of somebody not holding on to emotion in 2025 seems a little bit near impossible.
Yeah, yeah, we have a lot going on in our world, and a lot of people want to, focus on their own inner world, but a lot of people are also focusing on the things that are going on in our country and our actual whole entire world. And
Mm-hmm.
they're holding a lot of emotions about that too, because there's a lot of opinions and things flying around that are causing a lot of things. So that, even if you don't have anything going on in your personal life that you feel like you're holding emotions about, maybe check in with what's going on externally in the actual entire world that you may be having feelings about.
Definitely. I mean, even if I think of like my mom as an example, I'm originally from Canada. My father is from the US, and I'm going back to North America in October. And I was saying, oh, I'm gonna go fly to see my dad in Florida. To be honest, I haven't seen him since I was 3. And my mom was like, can't do that. And I was like, what? Like, I grew up an hour from the Detroit border and competed in toddlers and tiaras beauty pageants. I've been to the US, more places in the US than I have been to in Canada. Like, I'm going to the US. What's the problem? And she's like, oh, it's not safe there. And I'm like, what? Like, I was like, what are you talking about? And I even said to her, like, with respect, like, what news have you been watching? Like, what are you talking about that it's not safe there? I was like, that sounds silly. And she brought up something about some person getting picked up by ICE for having something on their phone and this and that. I'm like, but what's the actual like percentage likelihood of this actually happening? She's like, well, it's pretty small, but I'm like, so what are we talking about here? This one incident that happened? I mean, really, like, it could happen anywhere. Like, I'm not saying that the US is perfect and all the other countries are have problems. Like every country has its own problems, but to
Mhm.
sit here and just dwell on this negativity, I mean, for me, again, I feel like I'm a broken record here, but what are you putting into your conscious and subconscious mind day after day when you're watching the news and watching all of this danger programming where everything, the sky is falling all the time, and it's like sky's been falling since the news started, like.
Yeah. Yeah. And where focus goes, energy flows, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, for example, when I used to go hiking when I was in North Carolina, and I went all the time. Like I was on a
Hmm.
trail so off more than I wasn't. You know what I mean? If I was off that
Hmm.
day. And I never saw a bear on a trail
Hmm.
ever. Not one time. I even had people tell me one time, if you go down that trail right there, about halfway up, there's a bear in a tree. So I go down the thing thinking, okay, I'm going to get to see a bear. No bear, no bear. You know why? Because I wasn't supposed to see bears. In my mind, I was
Hmm.
safe every single time I went out there. I was never in any danger from any snakes, bears, anything like that. So I never saw any, you know?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Is, you're putting your reality out in real time. So if you're like, I'm gonna see a bear, I'm gonna see a bear, I'm gonna see a bear, oh my gosh, there's a bear, then yeah, you probably would have seen a bear, and la la la. But it's literally like, I hate to like simplify things, but it's literally that simple. You program your reality. If you don't want to see a bear, then tell yourself, I'm not going to see a bear. I'm safe. Everything's fine. Now, does karma come into play sometimes? Yeah, it does. But most of the time, it's not this thing that we think it is. It's that we're just putting that subconscious fear out there all the time without even being aware of it. And then the world is reacting to that,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
my opinion, anyways.
It's very true. It's very true because I had a day at work, and I didn't mention this earlier, but I because I have been going through so much emotional stuff and a lot of it is painful. And it just that manifested, and I didn't even think about it until we're sitting here talking. I cannot even tell you how many times I hurt myself in just minor little ways yesterday at work.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And I just kept hurting myself. And it's because like little pains, all these little pains keep coming, like when I feel like, okay, I'm through that now. It's like here it comes again. And it's just painful. And I feel like that was a physical manifestation of that thought process. Now that I
Mm-hmm.
think back on it yesterday, because I was like, I wish I would quit hurting myself, like it's just, but yeah, that's because that's where what it was. My mind like was just concentrating on all these painful things that I feel like have been just coming at me like little daggers here lately. Nobody's intentionally giving that out to me, but that's just how I've been feeling lately, because I just have
Mm-hmm.
so much going on. So that was just a physical manifestation of that. That's exactly what it was.
That's exactly it. Like I remember at one point, I was having an argument with my husband. This was, I don't know when it was, anyways, a few years ago. And he literally like grabbed his back and was like, "You're hurting my back." And I was like, "What?" Like I was like very upset, obviously, because I'm like, "Why are you accusing me of hurting your back?" And d. But really, like his emotions were so blocked, so to speak. I'm not like passing judgment. I'm just stating what I saw. That I was like bringing pain to his body. And I mean, I was very upset by this, obviously, because I was like, well, I don't want to be hurting people's backs. Like,
Right.
that's not my intention. But also, that's what happened.
Wow, that is powerful. That is powerful. So, what emotion would you say is stored? I mean, like, I feel like I already know the answer to this question, but just for those who are listening who are not as familiar, what emotion would you say is stored in our back when we feel pain in our back like that?
I would say probably a mix of like anger or fear, depending on where it is in the back. Like if it's the lower back, it would be like in the kidneys, which is where fear is stored. Um, so that would be my impression of that. And then yeah, like your I guess anger and rage is more like the stomach area, but it can kind of be all over the place. So what would you say?
Well, I've heard that, well, and it may be low back is, and like you said, kidney area could be different, but I've a lot of times heard that feeling like you've been stabbed in the back or betrayal can also be
Mm,
something that manifests as back pain.
literally stabbed in the back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I've heard that in the shoulders, like if you have shoulders, a lot of shoulder and neck pain up in this area, that it's like you feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders and that you're carrying some kind of load. So,
Hmm.
when you feel that kind of tension and even in your actual shoulders themselves, it's a good idea to take a look at what you feel like you're carrying, whether that's in your personal life or emotions that are initiated due to interactions with other people or, something like that. It's to
Definitely.
explore that and see where you can maybe dissolve some of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's exactly it. Like the weight of the world is on your shoulders and just feeling overwhelmed by it all and potentially even anxious about it. I mean, obviously, if you feel like you're overwhelmed and you feel like you have the weight on the world, you probably are quite anxious. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's just I feel like it's so powerful to just like have this conversation. First of all, I'm really enjoying it. And second of all, just having the having the ability to notice this on oneself and uh yeah, I'm really excited about getting this information out there.
Yeah. And one of the areas I'd like to talk about is specifically as women. I know men feel issues in this area too, but I call it the pelvic girdle, like the area of our bodies where it's like the super low back, like the sacral area and hips, and sometimes it even wraps around into like our hip flexor areas and stuff like that. Could you talk about that area and what emotions are held in that area? Because I know that really affects a lot of women, especially.
I'm sorry, did you said like the lower back like into the pelvis, like that whole low area?
Yes, and the hips, all that kind of band of area right there.
Yeah, I mean, it can honestly, from my experience, it can be sadness. It can be honestly anything. It's just kind of like some people in yoga say it's the junk drawer of emotions.
Wow.
It just you don't really know what's going to be in there. Like it could be a lot of stuff, and it's a really tight area for a lot of people because yeah, it's just a very sensitive area. Maybe it's not getting that movement that it needs to just kind of move it through. And for myself, I would say sometimes definitely the feeling of like what's the word I'm looking for? Like I don't not good enough, but just like I don't know what the word is. Like when you don't think you're good enough.
Yeah. Like maybe some imposter syndrome. Is that where it would hang out at?
Exactly. I mean it could be different, but that's for me sometimes when I'm in that, that's the kind of stuff that comes up. And I mean, I really at this point in my life, I feel like I don't have imposter syndrome, but then I do that. I'm like, oh yes, I do.
That imposter syndrome is a sneaky little booger. It sneaks in there and makes you doubt a lot of things. And like, I haven't been doing it long enough. I don't know enough. It's been too long since I've done it, so I don't remember. So, people are going to notice that I might not remember what that pose is called or what that thing
Hmm.
is and whatever you're referring to. And, honestly, most people are never even going to notice. Like I remember
Exactly.
a conversation with a guy who came, and he was a young guy who came to put in um, some kind of home security system that we had when we, in a house that we were in a few years ago. And he had this script, right, that he was
Mm,
supposed to work from. And he messed it up, he said. He messed it up. And I said, you know what? I said, let me tell you something. I don't know what your script says.
hmm.
You know what your script says. So you feel like you messed up, but I don't know what your script says. So
Mm-hmm.
your information that you gave to me, because I have no frame of reference for what it was supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
sounded great to me. I feel like you did a good job. So that's, I feel like that's kind of the imposter syndrome. We feel like we have this script, so to speak, and we're supposed to be working from that. And if we deviate off of it or we forget a piece or whatever like that, we're all over ourselves, but not even thinking that the people we're talking to have never read our script. They don't know what it's supposed to say. They don't realize we forgot a part or had it in the wrong order or whatever. They have no idea. All they know is like these movements, in your case with the yoga, really feel good in my body,
Mm-hmm. You're
or I'm
absolutely
happy.
right.
You know what I mean? So it's, and the experience they have at the end, or like they really love your energy and that's what they're flowing with. And, in your head, you're like, oh shit, I should have done blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, I feel so good because they don't
Yeah,
know what your script was supposed to say. You know what I mean? So we get
absolutely.
that's the human factor in like, just like technicolor, like I said earlier, but it's fun and beautiful and frustrating all at the same time sometimes. But yeah, what we bring forth, I feel like as long as we do it with the good intentions and the highest vibrations and we're coming from our heart space, then that's what people are going to take in. They're not going to even know that we were supposed to do it a different way.
Definitely. And that reminds me, on my podcast, it's just like very like this, like very free-flowing conversation. I don't edit, just throw it on, let's do this. And I had a guest actually after the fact message me and say, like, I think maybe we should redo it. I would really like you to send me the video because I just want to make sure because I couldn't sleep last night because I was sitting there thinking about how I made all these mistakes and so and so and so and I was like, what? Like I was like, first of all, no problem. I'll send you the video and you're absolutely welcome to decide or whether or not you want me to post it. But I had to put a boundary up and said, I absolutely not. I will not do it again because this is what it is. It's not supposed to be a perfect polished conversation. And
Yeah.
even in the conversation, I like stumbled over a whole sentence and was like, let me just try again. Like, because that's life, like
Yes.
this is people make mistakes and trip over words sometimes. And, it's, I feel like, again, going back with the media, that it's like these rehearsed conversations have now like allegedly become the norm. And if you screw up, it's not okay. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we learn. And that's how we humanize ourselves is through error and being regular people. And again, like you said, like I listened to what she had to say. I didn't think, oh, she talking about? Or like, oh, she really missed that part. Like, I don't know. I thought it was great. And I said that. And she eventually listened to it and said, no, you know what? You're right. Like it wasn't as bad as I thought. And eventually she did agree that I could share it. But it's one of those things that just again your mindset is going to make your reality, and if you sit here and doubt yourself and you're probably going to make yourself screw up as well
Yeah.
because you're sitting
Yeah.
here being like, I'm going to make a mistake, I'm going to make a mistake, I'm going to make well, yeah, then you just made a mistake.
Yeah. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's absolutely,
Exactly.
it's like talking yourself into being sick because you don't
Yeah.
want to do it. And it's like, just like, if that's the case, just take the day off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, give yourself that space because we all need it. We all need that space. We have to recalibrate sometimes. When
Hmm.
I was in a job where I was able to do it, and I was, struck because I had PTO time and everything, and I would have a day where I was really stressed out. I didn't tell them this when I called, but I would call in sick of working. You know what I mean? Like I just
Yeah.
need a day, a mental health day, I would call it,
Yeah.
just be able to recalibrate and get back into, my own self, because it's really important for us to be able to do that. We don't have to strive, push, 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 push. That's a culture mindset. And we don't have to do that. We don't have to fall into that trap. But I understand how easy it is to do that, you know,
Hmm.
because we are so used to the noise. right? The
Mm-hmm.
quiet scares the shit out of us. Talked about that a little bit earlier. But the other day, when I was at work, I went to the back to the break room. And as I was going back, there was a lady standing there, and she had two young children in her cart. And every device was going. Like each of the kids had a device, and they were on like volume 8 out of
Oh,
10. They were so loud. And then, of course, all the noise in the store as it is anyway. And then the music on the intercom that's always going during the day, except for like a brief amount of time in the mornings for people who like that lower
mm,
stimulation. But it's always going and like I walked through there and it was so loud, and it just hit me. This is what most people experience every day. All this bright light, all these loud sounds, and it's constant all the time, all of this hyper stimulation nonstop. So when it gets turned off, we don't know what to do with it, most of us.
yeah,
A lot of people
definitely.
could never go camping in the woods where they're away from all of that because they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. How do you function when you have no cell service and you can't
Yep.
access your phone for videos and light and all of the things, They wouldn't know what to do. And I was just like, God, we live in such a noisy world, and it's no
Yeah.
wonder we have feelings of anxiety, and we have feelings in our bodies of not being able to breathe, and we have headaches and things like that. It's no wonder, Sam. I mean, like it just was such an impactful moment for me to like see that in just this stark clarity that I saw it in.
Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, people are, again, going back to programming, sorry, not sorry, people are programming their kids to do this right from like birth. Like they're giving their kids the like bright light toy that's making them like zombie out. And even like shows, I mean, for me, screen time for kids is a no. um like my daughter gets, I think, 5 minutes a day or something, where she gets to, we go on YouTube together and we look up animal videos, and this is like a month, a new thing in the past month. Now, do we watch family videos and stuff? Yeah, of course. Do we talk to my family in Canada? Yeah, of course. But we're not recklessly on YouTube just looking at whatever. But people will put on like Coco Melon, for example, for their young kids, and like this has actually been found to be extremely detrimental to kids' brains. Most people don't even know it. They just think, oh, good, I can get some stuff done, and they're using the
Yeah,
TV or screen as a babysitter. But people are setting their kids up for mental health issues and for ADD and ADHD or whatever that is. um we're putting that into kids, and then we're like, well, why can't they focus?
yes, right,
Because you've given them no chance or ability to be able to build how to focus.
right.
Like it's unbelievable. And I mean, I know it's not just a Western thing as well. They do it here I'm in Cambodia. They do it as well. Sometimes they just hand the phone over, and the kids are just doing whatever. You don't see their face. They're just gone in the
Yeah,
phone. And it's absolutely heartbreaking, because I feel like it's our responsibility as the older generations to teach kids, hey, life is happening outside the phone. It's not inside.
right.
And thinking that life is just a 7-second reel, and how good can I look in this filtered video of me doing this dance move for 9 seconds? Like that's not real life. But so many young people are being told this, and then are then later being diagnosed with mental health issues. And it's just coming full circle because they're not dealing with their emotions. Oftentimes when kids are having tantrums, they're just handed a phone or some kind of bright thing that distracts them. And it's literally like being like programmed from a young age to not deal with your emotions. And it's just, in my opinion, in this case, getting a little bit worse for some kids. They're not getting the chance to process their emotions, and then they wonder why they're having all of these health or medical, mental health issues later on, or not even later on. Like I think I read something that like the kids under 5 are now having like mental breakdowns. Like, what?
Oh my gosh, that is
They're
wild.
under 5. Like,
It's
but they
wild to
are.
me. I mean,
They are, you know?
yeah, and I think of how different, like, and I'm 55, okay? So life was completely different when I was a kid, and I get that because, well, for one thing, we didn't have a TV in our home because my parents were Pentecostal, and this is an ongoing joke in our with my brother and me. TV was the devil until my brother and I moved out of the house, so we didn't have a TV
Mm,
because it was the devil. And obviously there weren't computers back then, cell phones. I mean, we wanted to talk on the phone, it was tied to a wall, and we didn't get to see the person we were talking to, we just could hear their
hmm.
voice. And it was so different. I mean, we played outside. Kids today probably don't
Hmm.
even know what a dirt clod fight is. Me and my brother had them all the time. You know what I mean? We were outside doing stuff. We were, we were friends with bugs and birds, and went to the beach, and we knew what kind of fish were in there, what that we
Yeah.
were swimming around with. You know what I mean? Kids probably don't even know that kind of stuff these days, most of them, unless they have parents that are mindfully teaching about them. And I know there are some parents out there who do. I'm not saying like every
Hmm.
parent is like this and nothing outside of that exists, but it was a whole different world. When we
Hmm.
came home from school, the bullying stopped when
Hmm.
we got off the bus, because if there was any bullying going on, because there wasn't all this computer stuff. Now these kids have to deal with all of this 24 hours a day if they're on their phones looking at it, and they're not
Yeah.
taught to just put it down or whatever. And there's always this feeling that we need to respond. We got to respond. They
Hmm.
said this, so we got to say that. And that kind of thing. It's so different. And I see doing the job, and I think I've said this before, but I see doing the job that I do right now, how different my kids' lives would have been if I knew then what I know now,
Hmm.
you know? And it's, I think, getting back to nature and getting away from most of the just crap foods, because like I think you mentioned diet last time we had a conversation, just looking at that one piece,
Hmm.
can make a huge difference in what's going, and not just with our kids, but with ourselves, with our grown-up selves too. Like, you can't just sit around and drink carbonated crap all day long and eat these junk food snacks and think that your body's gonna feel good.
It will not,
Yeah.
period. I'm literally living proof of this. Like, as somebody who grew up on processed foods and like junk, whatever junk I wanted, basically. I mean, I ate some vegetables and fruits. I wasn't that type that was like, I never ate that ever, because I did. But most of the time I would just go for the quick stuff, because there was also a time where I was raising myself. So yeah, I'm gonna eat Chef Boyardee out of a can, like,
Yeah.
and throw it in the microwave, like that's all I know. But yeah, it's insane to see the difference that can be made, just like you said, with diet, which is just one piece of the puzzle. Because really, like, our body regenerates itself every 7 years. So if you're eating junk for 7 years straight, how are you expecting to feel anything but junk? Like,
Right.
it's literally what you've been putting in. And I mean, obviously, people are trying to take care of themselves by maybe taking a multivitamin or something like that, but multivitamins aren't going to fix a bad diet. Like, you can't, it's not a magic pill. There's no such thing as a magic pill, period. Like, there's no one thing that's going to like fix everything and you don't have to actually deal with anything. Like, that's not how real life works. And unfortunately, most of the vitamin supplement companies are also complete junk, and it
Yeah.
has stuff that like. There's even, I think, I don't know specifically, so nobody please quote me on this, but like, one a day multivitamin apparently has some of the same ingredients as Skittles.
Oh my God.
So, like,
That's
what are we
insane.
doing here? Like,
Yeah.
you think you're taking a multivitamin to try and take care of your health, but you're taking in like titanium dioxide too, or something like that. That's probably not it. But regardless, the point is that nothing is a better substitute than real food,
Yeah.
period. And the closer it's grown to your home, the better. Does that mean we all have to start being farmers? Hopefully not, because some of us are probably not great at farming. But just having that knowledge about where your food is coming from and how far it's coming as well is a huge piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Because, like, we need to know this information, and a lot of the kids don't know
Yeah.
what their food is. And now I'm lucky to say that here in Cambodia, a lot of kids still do know like their food, because like local markets, you go to the local market and buy your produce for the day or whatever, the next couple of days. It's not this like supermarket experience. They just, I think in the past 5 years where I live, they've just, there's two supermarkets, but they're like teeny tiny, basically like slightly larger than probably like an American gas station. Like it's not that
Um,
big. There's no like superstore, or I guess that's a Canadian one. There's no Publix or something like this where everything is like this giant, crazy lit shop.
yeah.
Um, no, in bigger cities, yeah, I'm sure there is something like that, but it's not. Also, Cambodia's I don't want to say behind because it's not behind, but they're not in this realm of like mega stores as much as other countries, which I
Yeah.
think is a good thing.
I think it's a good thing too. I really do because it's so crazy. Like the energy in there is just, it's so chaotic at best
Mm-hmm.
on most days, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just, it takes a really solid mindset to go in there and work with all of that chaos going on and all of these energies flying around at warp speed, it seems like some days, and
Mm-hmm.
maintain this peaceful little bubble, you know. I had one lady say to me one day, she goes, you're still smiling, you must be new. And I go, well, I've
Oh
been
God.
here. Yeah, she literally said that. And I said, well, I said, I've been here about 2 months. And she goes, yeah, I see you're still new. She goes, you'll be smiling for now. And I go, no. I said, no one gets to take my smile. That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, how sad. But then again, I look at most of the people around me and how that job has affected them, and how one
Mm-hmm.
lady actually told me just what that lady said, that she was like that when she first started there, but now she's not. And I thought, how sad that we
Mm-hmm.
allow that kind of thing to affect who we are at a core level.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to
Definitely.
allow something exterior from us to take our smile, to take our joy. It's just a
Absolutely.
fucking job. That's what I said to somebody the other day, and because they said something to me about, like, well, don't let it make you mad. I'm like, this job isn't important to
Yeah.
me. Like, it's not,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's a means to an end at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and I know, I feel that way about any job though. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't get to take your joy. And if you allow things exterior to you to take your joy, then we need to take a good solid look at what's going on. And you're never
Mm-hmm.
trapped, Sam. That's the thing. That's how I feel. There's always a
Mm-hmm.
choice. Now, whether you
Mm-hmm.
choose to make that choice or not is on you, but there's always a choice. You are never stuck, ever.
I couldn't agree more. And I mean, even myself in my 20s, I was that person. I was like, oh, this work drama is, I can't handle it. Like, and I'm saying that like because that was literally like quote from Sam in my 20s. Like, I can't handle this person at my work is so terrible, and they're just, but it was my choice, like I chose to feed into that victim mentality. And that's the other thing is like um when we allow people to take our happiness or whatever, we're becoming the victim, which is almost like rewarded in Western culture these days, is like, oh,
Yeah.
everybody loves the victim, and oh, life is so hard, and oh yeah, well, let me tell you, my life is even harder than yours, like it's,
Right.
there's a lack of, I think, there's a lack of what is the word, a spiritual, not cleanse, like cleanliness, but like there's no, again, there's no boundary there. And I think many people maybe in these roles are maybe not so spiritual, so they don't have that ability to see it from an outside perspective. They're just in it. And I think, you know, like for me, for example, if I were to go to a place like that, I would probably, um, for lack of better terms, for those who are maybe not in this on the spiritual path, I would use my imagination to imagine like a bubble around myself of like protection, so I don't need that energy to come in, and like that also would repel people who don't
Yeah.
uh they can't handle that. So those type of people stay away, you know. Um and I think that's very important, but they, you know, maybe they don't have that ability. They don't know about that stuff. They don't believe in that stuff. So they just get trapped in this thing that eventually turns into this victim triangle that I recently heard of that blew my mind about how many people are in this victim state. Either they're the victim, they're the perpetrator, or they're the martyr or the savior, and like you don't just stay in one, you can kind of like switch out. It's a triangle. And I was like, I couldn't believe this. Actually, I was like, what? No way. And then I was like, well, I don't have that problem these days. And then I realized, I'm like, okay, yeah, I do in some in cases. I still have a couple stories where I'm like the savior, or you know, I'm the victim and this didn't work for me and blah blah blah. But just becoming aware of that is so powerful. Again, back to the awareness of like, I get to choose. I have the choice every single day. What am I going to do today? What am I going to do in this situation? And
Yeah.
I think, yeah, just being aware of that is literally half the battle.
It is. It truly is. And it sounds like such a simple thing. And then at the same time, when you're not used to doing that, it takes constant redirection of yourself to put yourself back in that place of mindfulness. And then after a while, you only have to do what I refer to as micro shifts because you catch
Mm,
yourself so much faster. And I'll even change words as they're coming out of my mouth because it's like I know now the importance of languaging, you know, and
mm-hmm.
it makes a huge difference.
I
Like
couldn't agree more.
owning a diagnosis. My friend the other day, I was talking to her and she's like, my this and that and my this. I'm like, girl, why are you owning that shit?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you saying that? Like, you may have had an issue with that. And I'm not saying that there aren't still some issues going on that you need to address, but why would you call it yours?
Mm-hmm.
How do you ever hope to let something go if you're owning it in such a strong way, you know?
Definitely, definitely. And yeah, you're absolutely right. You don't need to hold on to that. It's like I was speaking about this or writing about it a little bit, in that, like, going back to BPD for a moment, is that like BPD and other mental health issues or diagnoses or whatever, it's not a club to be a part of. Like, you don't need to identify yourself as, oh, me and my BPD, or me and my depression, and oh, I'm depressed or whatever. It's a collection of symptoms that you're working to stop or get rid of or put into remission or whatever it is. That's all it is. And as soon as you can reframe it that way and realize that no, this isn't me, it's just something I'm going through,
Right.
again, that's literally like half the battle, is just a mindset.
Yeah, it really is. And I know it's a challenge for us humans and challenge isn't a word that I is my most favorite thing to use. But like I said in my recent Mindful Monday musings is that it is challenging for us
Mm-hmm.
humans sometimes. And we can't bypass that. We can't, you know, like gold leaf it and expect it to be something different than it is. And it's all shiny and pretty now if we call it something different. We still have to understand that there are days when it is more difficult for us to get to that place than it is other days. There are moments in a day that it's more difficult for us to get to, and just recognizing that we are human and we do have that humanness about us that we and just recognizing it in the moment, I feel like is really pivotal. At least it is for me.
Mm-hmm.
reminding
Mm-hmm.
myself, oh, this is my humanness, because my soul is good 100% of the time. Your soul is
Mm-hmm.
good 100% of the time, and so is
Mm-hmm.
everyone else's. It's this humanness that we are here to experience and learn from and grow, that causes us to feel all the things, to put the meanings on things, to make it difficult for ourselves sometimes. And when just in the moment, if you can realize that it's that piece of it
Mm-hmm.
that is
Definitely.
being the issue in that moment, it makes it easier. I feel like it makes it
Mm-hmm.
easier to deal with, because then we can go, oh, I get it now. And let me just
Mm-hmm.
work on shifting that. And it doesn't mean that it's a snap thing every time. Sometimes it takes a little while. And sometimes we just need to go take a nap or
Yeah,
something. You know what I mean? And just get
definitely.
out of it.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And, that's, I don't know if it's a saying or what it is, but people or things come into your life for a blessing or a lesson. Like
Yeah.
it's literally that. Like, or I mean, maybe if you want to shift it even further, everything's a blessing in disguise and everything, because the lessons are a blessing because it's an opportunity for you to level up or, however you want to word it, become a better human or make your experience more enriching or XYZ. But I think, yeah, it's just so important.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we're going to have more of these conversations, Sam, because I am absolutely loving it. And it's just like, I mean, I know that we've kind of need to wrap it up a little bit, because we've been talking for a while and we've kind of covered a gamut of topics in here, but I feel like they're all closely related. So I'm completely good with it. But I do feel like we're going to have some more conversations, because I feel like the flow is really good, the energy is good, and the message is, I feel, something that we all need to hear at some point. And even those of us who have been doing this and doing this for a while need to have these reminders, because they are solid reminders to what we need to do to push ourselves forward. I mean,
Hmm.
truly. So we're
I
definitely going to
couldn't
be
agree
talking.
more. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think everything comes at the right time for us. Trusting the divine and just trusting that everything is coming at the perfect time is uh, just, I feel like the key. you
Yeah.
know it's the key to just accepting and moving through things with grace and with yeah.
Yeah, grace, that's one of my favorite words. I love it. We've got to give
Yeah,
it to ourselves. We've got to give it to other people, because it is such a beautiful thing. So, Sam, I'm so glad you joined me today. Are there any words of wisdom that you'd like to share as closing before we leave today?
I would say just if you're listening, take 5 minutes, a little timer if you need to, sit down, turn everything off, and just sit in silence and see what comes up. That's the first step.
And check in with your body, because that's what we've been talking about a lot today, how our bodies feel. So just check in. I body scans. We do this in yoga a lot. I know when I
Mhm.
was doing yoga more in the past, I actually did some yoga training too, and we did body scans a lot at the beginning before we even started our yoga, and then at the end, to see how our bodies had released those tensions and everything during our class. So yeah, during that quiet time, just see what comes up, and check in with your body too. And just no judgment, though. No judgment. That's a
And
really important piece.
definitely, and being okay, like I think it was, sorry, I know we're trying to wrap it up, but I think being okay with the thoughts that come up and not holding on to them. Like, cause the biggest misconception for meditation or sitting in silence or whatever you want, mindfulness, XYZ, whatever you want to call it, people think, oh, I failed because I started thinking.
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works. Brains are designed to keep it moving. You have to be okay with it coming up, but then you have to say, okay, cool, let's come back to this later. I'm trying to be quiet right now. Love you, but talk soon. Like it's just being there with yourself and holding space for yourself and not judging when you start thinking, because everybody does it. It's
Yep.
literally how our brains are designed. So
Yeah.
anyways,
The human factor, right? That we
yes.
talked about. So thank you, Sam. I've enjoyed this. And like I said, we'll schedule another chat because there's some other things I'd like to dive into with you because I just love the way this is going. So definitely
Yeah, looking
that.
forward to
So
it.
yeah. And thank you everyone for joining us on another episode of Spiritually Speaking. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because you know as well as I do that there are many more people out here who need to hear this message. So thank you all. And until next time, I love you all.